Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. This is Don, the hardest working nobody in Bitcoin. This is the Defion Productions podcast. I am your host. We're going to bring my co-host in a second. He's live from an undisclosed location somewhere deep in the jungle. I'll let him dox his location if he wants. Otherwise, we'll just keep that between us. Um, Lots to talk about. We got a lot of macro events going on that affect markets. We had a little bit of movement this week, early week in Bitcoin and crypto. We saw uh, movement after the debate. For those living under a rock, we had Kamala Harris debating Donald Trump on Tuesday night, and we saw a lot of action in the markets as they were debating, and then directly after. My opinion, what I believe was happening was the markets were pricing in the fact that they thought Kamala beat Trump. That's kind of how I saw it. And then we saw the markets reset and kind of go back to a little bit higher than they were even before the debate. As we sit right now, we're sitting at 58,143 in Bitcoin and 2340 in ETH. And Solana's at about 134 and some change. Let's bring in the boys from the jungle to see what they think, how they're feeling. What's up, buddy?
I'm feeling great, man. I know September is historically not the best month for crypto. And what we're trying to do is not only are we trying to survive in the jungle, we're also trying to survive in the markets. So that's kind of where we're at. We watched a debate, was it 2 nights ago, here live in the jungle, which was fun. So we can maybe dive into a little bit of that. But other than that, this is a crypto podcast. We're here to talk about what's going on in the economy. Bitcoin has been consolidating for quite some time now. Ideally, we would like some more volatility, but we're sitting at 58,150 for those who are watching at this current moment, and Ethereum's at 2340. And for those who like to degen speculative coins, Solana's hovering around 135. Let's go.
What do you think about the fact that they didn't speak one time about anything Bitcoin or crypto on that debate stage? No, nothing.
I mean, it was definitely, I was anticipating them to speak about it at least a little bit. I did see the markets move a little bit, but yeah, I was kind of disappointed that they didn't cover that topic. I know that's a big topic of discussion for these younger voters and older voters that are, heavy into crypto or have some sort of crypto. So it was disappointing, but I mean, what do you think about it? Do you think because I thought Trump buried her, personally. And I know you came at me and said that you were like, are you watching the same debate? And I had a few people say the same thing to me. And it's okay to have different views and different thoughts. That's why we're that podcast where we have different viewpoints. What do you think about it?
So did you see what I posted on Facebook earlier today? Because it kind of encompasses what I think my takeaway was from the debate. So basically, for me, my opinion, I feel like that debate and debates in general are not for people like me and you, and not for people that have kind of already made a decision on who they think is the better candidate. I think debates are for the large swath of voters which are uneducated in regard to politics or uninformed in regards to policies. And I think that viewer watching that debate that doesn't really understand policy, doesn't really understand politics well, and just watching that in that tunnel would have come away thinking that Harris had a better performance than Trump. Now, when you're talking policies, if you're viewing it from a policy lens, her policies are either non-existent because we still don't know what they really are, or they're poor at best, right? We know that because we're educated. We get that. So we're watching it through biased eyes. So when you're listening to them talk, you would think, well, Trump is obviously speaking policy better than her. But again, as I reiterate, I don't think debates are for us, for guys like us or people like us that have either made a decision on who we think is better or are somewhat educated on policies and politics. That debate is for people that are not. So in that demographic, she came off way better. So if you view it through that lens, then number one, and again, I've said this on the podcast before, and Matt was even on the podcast that I really went in on it. The Democrats are just so good at winning elections. they are way better at game theory than Republicans. And whoever was on that debating prep team for Kamala was dynamite because they had her set him up numerous times and he fell right into the trap. It's almost like he didn't see it coming, which I can't believe because he's a really good debater and he's a really smart man. And it's like they set up these traps and he just like, I can't believe he took the bait. I mean, she had him on a rant talking about a governor in West Virginia stance on late-term abortion. That dude ain't even in this election running. Like, he's not even up for an election spot. And Trump spent 5 minutes talking about this guy, which was complete waste of time. Like, it doesn't matter what that guy thinks. It only matters what Kamala thinks. And she was articulate and artful at dodging, telling us exactly what she thought. And Trump was telling us what he thought, but also was telling us what he thought on things that really didn't matter. Then he got into that whole rant talking about people eating animals in Ohio. Again, if it's happening or not, it's kind of irrelevant. Like, we're here for policies. We're here for politics. Like, that stuff is just, who gives a shit? Like, there's shitty people out there. We get it. What does that have to do with her policies and holding her accountable for her policies? I think he did a very bad job at making her hammer down two things. Number one, the border. He didn't come back because again, I think it's fair to say that the moderators were unfair and it was kind of 3 against 1. I think that's a fair assessment. But again, that's an excuse, and I'm not in the game of excuses. And if you're a winner, you don't make excuses. You just play by the rules and you adjust. That's what winners do. So I don't like the fact that him or Republicans are using it as an excuse. What he needed to do was take control and direct narratives back to her and hammer her in on what is your stance on the border and why have you failed, as the borders are. He went there for a second, and then he went on some stupid rant. He didn't go in on that. Number two, the economy, right? She started the whole thing off by saying that she acknowledged that there was problems in the economy. Perfect opportunity for him to just hone in on the fact, like, you've been vice president for the past 3.5 years. What have you done to execute your power as a leader? Because you're fighting for the role of leader, to show us that you have leadership qualities, to talk to the president, to say, hey, these aren't working. Let's try these things. Why haven't you done that? What is your plan for that? No, he went off on a rant because she baited him into talking about his rally sizes, which, knowing that he's going to jump right in for that. And he did. And I think he failed, in my opinion, miserably on numerous opportunities to really hold her accountable, because he should have recognized early the moderators were not on his side and it was going to be his job to kind of pivot. And he just never did. That's why I think he lost.
I thought he was very calm and collective when it came to, like, when Kamala was speaking. You can see that Kamala was mocking him and was looking at him the whole time. And I know that has nothing to do with, like, policies and stuff, but, like, she kind of gave me a bad taste and she seemed like incongruent personally. I also want to add that, yeah, obviously the moderators weren't on Trump's side and they weren't fact checking. They were fact checking Trump more than they were fact checking Kamala. But I feel like Kamala was like condescending in a way. You know what I mean? That's just my approach. What was your approach? Because we watched it together.
Well, I mean, also you got to think of the world that we're living in and how it's been set up. So, I was actually talking to POTUS Vaccaro, shout out him, VV, but he was telling me, he's like, I don't see, Republicans being able to win these elections anymore because, I mean, to the point you made, Don, when they're coming into these debates, it's not really about the supporters, about the borderline voters who are going to swing either way. And when you look at that, I mean, the political correctness that, liberals and Democrats have embedded in our society nowadays is going to make it, very hard for a Republican to be able to come in there and talk about, the actual points that they have and the things that makes, conservatives, because a lot of it's politically incorrect nowadays. So you're going to come in, you're going to lose voters just to the fact that now we have a society that's set up like that. But I mean, in terms of, what this does for crypto, we as voters we don't have any control over, Don, you don't have any control over who gets in office. I don't have any control over who gets in office. Maybe someone like Elon Musk has, some pull on, who he endorses and who gets in. But at the end of the day, the price is going to do what the price is going to do. And Kamala or a Democrat's going to get in office and fuck everything up fiscally and monetarily. And, that's going to increase the price of Bitcoin. Or Trump's going to come in and he's going to help the economy better than Kamala would, which for a risk-on asset is not good. but he is also pro Bitcoin. So, I mean, more people are going to get into it. So, I mean, either way, I see a win-win for Bitcoin, no matter who gets into office. Because just because Kamala doesn't like support Bitcoin the way Trump does, it doesn't matter, because their fiscal and monetary policies are going to be different from what Trump's was, and that's going to increase the price of Bitcoin. So, you know, either way, I see a win-win for Bitcoin in this election. And if you're voting just based off of Bitcoin, I would say, you know, it really doesn't totally matter.
I actually agree. I sent Troy, if you got the email that I sent you on some talking points, the Simply Bitcoin tweet, national debt year by year. If you take a look at that from 1977 until present, every single administration from Carter all the way to Biden, the national debt has increased under every single president. So fiscal policy, monetary policy is basically the same under any administration. There's an illusion that it's different, which is why, you know, I've gotten into a lot of social media back and forths with people that really believe, and I don't know how to explain it any other way or try to get them to see it any other way, that they really believe that that one right there, they really believe that Trump is going to be this savior of the economy in regards to like eliminating the national debt or, you know, reducing spending. Like none of that's true. None of that's reality. That's just not the case. Like that's not the system that we're set up in. Like you have to do a complete blow up reset for that to ever be the reality. And nobody's going to tie their legacy to that. And in fairness to Trump, like, why would you do that? Why would you be the one that blows everything up and everything goes to zero and there's mass chaos? Because that's what it would take to reset the whole thing and get this thing back on the right track. And it's just not realistic. So whether Harris or Trump wins, spending will continue to skyrocket. The national debt will continue to skyrocket. The interest on the national debt will continue to skyrocket. They may be able to do something. Trump may do a couple different things in regards to some government spending than the other side would, that may have a couple $100 billion of an effect. But when you're 36 trillion in debt, what the hell is a couple $100 billion? Like in the grand scheme of things, it's not even covering the interest on it. So I believe what you just said, that it doesn't matter who wins long term. Like it's just going to be Bitcoin exists because of how bad the system is messed up, and no president's going to fix it. No president has. And again, if you really paid attention to that debate, they didn't talk national debt really, I'm almost positive, at all. Like national debt, I don't even think was even mentioned, because I think it's the unspoken truth that everybody knows. Like there is no plan for that, because nobody's willing to do what it would take, which would be a complete reset. Like nobody's tying themselves to that. Nobody's pushing the button and blowing everything up to get things back on a standard, to get fiscal spending back in more austerity. Like it's not happening. Like it's just not going to be a thing. So they can talk about spending, they can talk about inflation, but like these are our realities. This is why Bitcoin was created. This is why crypto exists. I mean, it was birthed after the great financial crisis, and 2020 put everything on steroids, and they're just not going to stop that. So I agree with what you said, Matt.
Yeah, and these are like, the inflation is really just the hidden tax that everyone's paying on any transaction of money or even to hold money to keep the system going. So I mean, that's the real tax right there, is the inflation. But I mean, Don, have you also looked at this was brought up to me the other day, and Troy too, with the price of Bitcoin and where it's at in this rally in the all-time highs, when it's adjusted for inflation, we aren't really along as far as you'd think.
Yeah. For example, going back to shout out Tyler the Quant, inflation is robbing you blind without you even realizing it. You're looking at a 23% price drop from the March high, but in reality, it's closer to 40% loss adjusted for inflation. So the government doesn't need to tax you directly; they just devalue your money through this silent robbery.
Well, when you think of people getting wrecked too, they're getting wrecked even harder than they think they are as well. The people who are trading this shit, right?
Yeah. For example, I knew about this, but I didn't really think about it. Yeah, my portfolio's down, 30%, but adjusted for inflation, we've been consolidating for the last almost 6 months. We've been on a downtrend. I'm probably down more than I actually think I am in terms of my buying power. So That's something to keep in mind for the viewers is, you always have to be outpacing inflation, or you're being basically screwed over, by the government.
Yeah, real quick shout out, if you're not following him, Tyler at Tyler the Quant on X, great follow. We just read his tweet. Troy just read his tweet. The other thing too is when you're looking at investing in investments, like a lot of people are directly or indirectly allocated to the stock market, either through their trading or through their 401ks, their 403bs, their variable annuities, whatever product that they're choosing to put over the markets. When you take away like 7 or 8 stocks, if you just eliminated them from the market, people are down bad. Like they don't even realize that. If you take out 7 or 8 stocks out of the market, just completely eliminate them, like those market caps and those performances of those stocks, like you're down bad. You know what I'm saying? So you hear people say, oh, the market's like outperforming and stock market's up all-time highs. It's like when you adjust the stock market for sectors and you eliminate certain stocks out of those sectors, the stock market's getting crushed. When you're accounting for inflation and when you're accounting for actual annualized returns, like it's not as great as everybody thinks. Again, to the point that Tyler was making in his tweet. So you're looking for this alternate, and again, the battle that we're all fighting is how do we outpace inflation, right? That's what you're trying to do. You're trying to protect and expand your buying power. That's the game. That's the game that we're all playing. Whether you are willingly playing it or just blindly playing it, like you're going to work, giving up your time to get value that you hope doesn't continue to devalue faster than you earn it. Like that's the game, right? So when you're taking the income or the buying power that you have left over after you take care of your responsibilities, you're looking to put that into something that's going to at least keep up with inflation, if not outpace it, which is what we're all trying to do. And that's the game that we're all trying to play that I think people aren't really recognizing is probably the most difficult it's ever been in my lifetime.
Definitely. And I think it depends on how much money you're playing around with too. And, how much time you have with that money as well, I mean, for someone who's going to, hold Bitcoin, and I think like for the younger generation, I mean, people like myself, fresh out of college, just starting, businesses and stuff like that. I don't have millions of dollars or even hundreds of thousands of dollars to throw into the market. So it's like for someone like that, I mean, I think it's better to, come up with systems and a sophisticated trading, methodology and rules, and then enter the market like that. And really know what you're doing and, have someone teaching you. Shout out Tyler, who's, taught me everything that I know, and, put me, in a place where, I know knowledge that I feel like a lot of people don't who are trading this stuff. So I think that there's real alpha in, surrounding yourself in a group where you can get this sort of information, because that's all it is the information. And obviously, we're assuming you're going to work hard with and not be stupid with your money, right? So that's just where my head's at with it, kind of is like, how long is your plan? Like how long are you planning ahead to fight, the inflation, right? And like how much money are you starting with? I think are like two very important, inputs into your decision.
I also seen you just made a tweet on the app freecash.com. So for anyone, we can put a referral link in the bio, but for anyone that wants to earn Bitcoin online, you've been doing this for a while, and it's just a simple, easy way to interact with different applications, whether it's games, whether it's surveys, and different things that you can actually earn Satoshis and start stacking and get off zero. Because the ultimate goal of this podcast is to educate people on financial literacy and getting them off zero, so that's
what does that financial literacy like really look like though? You know what I mean? Like, can you go into that?
Man,
it's
definitely a deep question. Well, it's a broad question, but I can get deep in it. But I'm not going to spend too much time on it, but it's just having the intelligence, whether it's emotional intelligence, to make the right decisions and not timing things. Cause obviously you can never time tops and bottoms, and I'm just talking specifically crypto. I can get into like fundamentally sound principles, which, you know, I'm not going to get into that because I'm not your financial advisor. This is not financial advice. I'm just a nobody in crypto that likes crypto and I make money with it. But I just think having people in your corner that you just know, like the finance world, like the economy, understanding global liquidity. Again, that's getting deep, but like the basics is just investing and saving more than you spend. Just know the basics. Don't start investing in crypto until you know how to like build your credit score up. You know how to save money and not spend it stupid. Like that's another reason why we're in this undisclosed location in a third world country, because we're able to maximize poverty, especially during the bull market, and keep our expenses low because, you know, we just went out to eat and we spent, I'm not going to show our currency because that will tell you where we are, but here's a little quick, you know, boom, boom, boom. But we just went, we're doing rooftop restaurants. You would think like, yeah, you just said maximum poverty, eat ramen. Well, we're living good, but we're also keeping our expenses low because the currency here is so inflated and so weak compared to the US dollar that our money goes a long way. And that's something what I think is what we're doing right is we're escaping the matrix by country hacking and using the foreign exchange currency markets to leverage our wealth. And that's the sacrifices some people take. Now, not everyone's going to go that far down the rabbit hole. You know, all you can do is, if you're in America, is just simply just keep your expenses low. Don't eat out, you know, maybe just sacrifice a little bit. And then the bear market's the time to, you know, you want to realize your profits in the bull, but the bear market's when you actually start to like, you know, pay yourself and do the things you want to do, because that's the whole reason why we're doing this, is to buy back more time and to enjoy life. You know, like God created this beautiful world and this universe that we have to enjoy some of it and not completely be, you know, frugality and just cheap. You know, I mean, especially the women hate people that are cheap. That's another thing.
Real quick, I want to just mention too, we got like a couple dozen viewers, I think, on X right now. If you're watching this on X Live and you're not following or subscribed to our YouTube channel yet, please give us some support. Subscribe to our channel. It's in my profile as well as Troy's. If you just search us on YouTube, Defion Productions on YouTube. Piggybacking on what Troy just said, yeah, I agree. You know, when it comes to financial literacy, you want to get a basic understanding of the system that you're engaged in before you start making moves in that system, right? It's like, I always use the analogy, like if you're going to learn a brand new sport, like if you've never golfed before, if you never played tennis before, you're not just going to go pick up a racket or pick up a golf club and just run out there and just start doing shit without knowing what the rules are, right? You got to learn the rules and at least get a basic understanding before you pick up the tools to start playing the game. I think it's the same way when it comes to finance, and financial literacy is learning the rules of the game that you're engaged in so you can better play the game. And unfortunately, most of us sleepwalk through this endeavor of, you know, financial experiences. You know, we go to school, we get traditionally educated, which I think is a scam in and of itself, and it's corrupt, and we learn things the complete wrong way. We go to college, graduate with debt. We start off already underneath mountains of debt, and then we go out there earning, and we don't even know what the right things to do with our money. And for some of us, by the time we figure it out, we might be 30 or 40 years old, and we're more than halfway through the game, and it's like set up that way. So if you don't learn the game that you're playing, it's super hard to ever be you're never going to be a successful, let alone elite at the game, right? Like you have no shot of being elite if you don't even know what the rules are. But the goal, hopefully, at some point, is to at least experience some success. And unfortunately, far too many people don't. Like you sit down with them, and you know and again, I'm going to use an example when you're talking about returns in the market. Like traditionally, you're looking for like 7 to 8% in your portfolio to get for a return, and you have to realize that 35% of that you're never going to see because of taxes, right? And you also have to remember that there's a percentage hidden in that as well that's being eroded by inflation in your buying power. So when you see your 8% return, what are you really getting for a return? Are you really ahead or are you behind? And then when you retire with all this money that 30 years ago might have been a large amount of money, by the time you get to it and you get to the finish line, you're like, dude, what did I do? Like, what? This is nothing. I can't live off this. And again, we use the example, like, If somebody would have sat down on a financial advisor in 1994 and the financial advisor puts together a plan to get to $1 million by 2024 and everybody's happy and high-fiving each other like we got a great plan. And then here you are in 2024 and you get to that million and you realize that you really needed 2.4 because that's what inflation did to your buying power. And you're sitting there looking at your financial advisor and your financial advisor is looking at you like this was the plan that we had. Like, this is what we thought we needed. And then the game's changed. The rules changed.
You didn't read the terms and conditions?
Yeah. Yeah.
They definitely know, they're financial advisors. They earn that authority through education. So
I don't blame, and I'm not saying that to blame financial advisors. I'm just saying like this, the game keeps changing and it's changing on the advisors. It's changing on all of us rapidly. Like who would have saw 2008 and 2020 happening the way that they did to our generation, to my generation, at least, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And like, for example, tying that into Bitcoin's price, like people don't realize that Solana is even worse. I'll talk about that. But for example, what was the all-time high price for Bitcoin? 73,000. The Bitcoin all-time high is 73,000. Adjusted for inflation, it's got to be pretty close to 80,000 now. So, right? Because wasn't that a few months ago, like 78, 79? I mean, I don't have the exact logistics on me right now, but it's got to be close to 80,000 as the new all-time high. And that's, I mean, Bitcoin has slight inflation, right? Solana has even more inflation, and not even like the all-time high price is even higher than what we think it is.
It's hard when you start thinking like those numbers. It can be overwhelming. Yeah. I want to read a quick tweet real quick. Undisclosed B on Twitter. I thought this is really good. I wanted to share with our audience, so I'm going to read it real quick. Everyone I know in real life thinks I'm some crazy spectator because I have all my liquid wealth in Bitcoin. The opposite is true. I'm in Bitcoin because I believe it's the safest asset on earth. It's volatile, but it's fundamentally risk-free because it's the future-based money. This is a hard concept for people to understand. But what is considered risk-free now? Cash and treasuries? Are they really risk-free? No. Each is a guaranteed way to lose purchasing power. Inflation eats them up. So there is inflation risk that is guaranteed. But with Bitcoin, there is a fixed, immutable supply. This guarantees that BTC will be deflationary. As the economy grows and as fiat is outcompeted by Bitcoin, prices in BTC terms will go down forever. This is how a true risk-free asset should behave. The only question is, will Bitcoin become base money? I think this is very clearly the case, even though we're still in a nascent space with Bitcoin. Bitcoin is the very first asset that is perfectly scarce and has all the attributes of money. It's backed by a wall of energy and is highly distributed across the globe. It's as inexorable as the internet. The genie has been let out of the bottle and there is nothing stopping this train. So I'm no spectator. I'm no speculator. I'm the most conservative type of investor out there. In fact, I'm not even an investor. I'm a saver. Once the normies realize they no longer need to take on risk to preserve and grow their wealth, it's game over for fiat. Plan accordingly. When I read that, I really I felt it. Because that's really that's how I feel. Like I don't feel like I'm invested in Bitcoin. I feel like I'm saving my future buying power, and I'm owning something that just has the price tag for me is just priceless. Like the price is just noise. Like, you hear people say that the price is just noise, but that's really just how I feel. Like there's no price. There's no price in the next 20 or 30 years that I'll sell it at. You know what I mean? Like I'm not accumulating Bitcoin to sell it for fiat.
Yeah. And I totally agree with everything you said based on all the data and knowledge that we have up to this point. But then to allude back to us not being able to predict what happened in 2008 and 2020, there could be another asset that comes into play that takes out Bitcoin and becomes, the asset of choice to fight against inflation.
How?
That's something that could happen. I don't know what it would be, when it would happen, how it would happen, and why it would happen. But that's definitely not off the table. So in that case, you would agree that switching to that asset, that optimal asset, correct or no?
I think there's probably as close to a 0% chance of anything coming along that will be even on par, let alone better than Bitcoin, because it would require someone to create it. And then now you have somebody that's in charge, and now you have centralization no matter what. The perfect storm happened with Bitcoin. It was like a godsend. I don't know. I'm not trying to tell people to believe any sort of religion, but the fact that we don't have a Satoshi like on Twitter tweeting or on CNBC giving interviews, or for all we know, even alive on this earth to change protocol, to move coins, like it was as close to an immaculate conception as we'll ever get. So you have this protocol that's controlled by no one, that has no creator or person that's responsible for it that can change coding or any of that stuff. Like none of that exists. So anything else that comes along after, the person would literally have to off themselves. Like they would have to create it and then put a gun in their mouth and pull the trigger. Like that's about as close as you're going to get to being able to replicate all the, and again, they have to do everything that Bitcoin does, make it as scarce or more scarce, and then have the balls to end themselves. Because as long as they're alive, it can never be what Bitcoin is. And to take it a step further, you're most likely going to have a conglomerate of people. It's not going to be one person doing it. It'll probably be a conglomerate of people trying to figure it out together. And then you just have multiple points of failure, which with Bitcoin, you have 0 points of failure.
And that's your why behind Bitcoin. And that's why
the biggest threat to me to Bitcoin, the only threat, honestly, to me to Bitcoin is if tomorrow Satoshi revealed himself and we found out that he was really here. He started moving coins out of the Genesis wallet. He started doing interviews on CNBC. Then we'd be screwed. Then I don't know where you put your money. Then it would just be like, this is bad. This is really bad. But outside of that happening, Bitcoin is as perfect of an asset as you can have to store value. Because again, like people get caught up in the fact that like even Troy showing the currencies that of where you guys are at, like paper currency, it's not real. Like it's just there's no difference between what Troy showed, what this is, or you know what this is. Like it's worth the same. The government's just telling us that this is worth more than that. But over 100 years, this and this are going to be about the same. And there's many countries out there that you're going to wipe your ass with this, and you're going to wipe your ass with their currency, and because it's got the same value. So it's energy, right? It's energy. That's what we're looking for. Energy, buying power. Like, where am I going to put my energy? Because every time we get up, go to work, and punch a clock, we're putting our energy towards something to provide value for us, right? I'm giving you 8 hours of my energy, and you're giving me some sort of equivalent of that in buying power on the other side of that. I'm giving you my personal energy. You're giving me buying power energy. We're trading that, and I'm taking that energy, and I'm trying to make it last as far as I can go. So the concept of like understanding what the game is, like we're dealing in games of energy. We're getting caught up in like, what's the fiat price or how much is Bitcoin worth? And it's like, you know, even we fall victim, even starting this podcast out, even saying what the price of Bitcoin is even kind of fiat mindset-ish, which, you know, I don't want to do, but it's tough because that's just what we're engaged in. Like we're engaged in a fiat currency because that's how you pay your bills. That's how you buy your food and eat. That's how you pay for your place that you're staying at. That's how you pay the guy to come fix something at your residence. So I get it, but
that's a great point. Like it's a transference of energy. And that's kind of how I look at Bitcoin, as a transference of energy. You know, you're trading goods and services with this money that's created through, you know, computing energy and GPUs, and it's just a quicker, faster way that we know the monetary policy. We know there's only 21 million Bitcoin created. We know no one could come in, and I mean, people can fork it, but good luck. They've already tried that. So like, that's why I'm so bullish on Bitcoin, and I just have so much confidence in it, is because it's uncorruptible. No one could take it away from you. Not your key, as long as you have your private keys. Like it's just like for example, me traveling the country, like I can bring, like let's say I went to a different country with 50 grand cash. Good luck. Put it on your ledger. You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. You bring it through the security, even if they take your ledger, if it's in a country that's not crypto friendly, but you just have to look at.
You have your seed phrases either way.
Yeah,
so
you have your
about the ledger.
And if you remember your seed phrase, which I'm
you
not,
wouldn't even need a ledger.
I'm not there yet, Don. I'm not there yet. Are you there yet, Don? Like to the point where you could just remember your 12 to 24 words. That's next level self-sovereignty. But that's just an example of just like.
I can't remember what I ate for breakfast or where I put my car keys. So no. Not yet.
That's good. That's good. Yeah.
But to drive home that point, like one of my favorite things about Bitcoin in this ecosystem is the fact, like I just went on that rant for like 5 minutes and I probably didn't even do it justice. There's so many people in this industry that can explain it way better than I did. Michael Saylor aside, there's just so many people that get it. So I feel like every single day I'm learning more. Every single day I'm realizing that I don't understand something as good as I probably could or should. So I'm just always continuing to learn. And you got to remember, like when you're talking TradFi, like there's been TradFi financial advisors for over 100 years, right? Like it doesn't take a lot to really understand that your job's got a 401k. You pick a fund, they put it in there, and for 30 years, either your company matches or they don't, and then you have this amount of money, and then you make a decision in 30 years. Like it's not rocket science behind that. So there are no official, like as of now, like Bitcoin or crypto financial advisors. There's assholes like us on podcasts talking about it and talking like we're not giving you financial advice to do anything. We're telling you what we do because we're not registered to do that. Like there is no registered crypto financial advisor or Bitcoin financial advisor, which in and of itself kind of tells you like how early we are. Because I think at some point in time, like there will be advisors that are registered to speak specifically about, Bitcoin advisors or crypto advisors where they're just dealing in that ecosystem. And that doesn't, to my knowledge, doesn't exist at this point in time. So like, there's just so much more to explore and there's so much more to learn because there isn't enough people out there that get it enough where they can actually like give people certifications and registrations to actually sit down with people and guide them. Like we're early, man. It's just, this is a 100-year experiment. Like it's just going to be like a lot of stuff, a lot of things to learn, a lot of onboarding of people, a lot of questions, a lot of trial and error. Like even going from an exchange to self-custody is a big step, right? Not to mention the step of just going on Coinbase and buying your first Bitcoin and making the decision that I'm going to invest in this, like quote unquote investor. I'm going to get some allocation to crypto or Bitcoin because there's still a lot of people out there that believe it's a scam. They believe it's a Ponzi scheme. They think it's tulips and all the shit that people say when it comes to stuff like that. There are still a lot of people that believe and feel that. So we're just so early in this. And it's like wild because like I've spent almost a quarter of my life now in this. You know what I'm saying? Like almost 25% of my life I've spent in Bitcoin now.
Yeah. My grandpa actually read a blockchain book on Bitcoin and he still thinks it's tulips.
Of course.
So it's like, there's some people that you can't save no matter what. Like, it's just like, dude, you're reading the blueprint right there and you still don't get it. I mean, it takes it takes a lot of hours to learn this stuff. I get it, but there's no way, shape or form this is ever could be compared to tulips. You can't create more Bitcoin. You could create more tulips. You know what I mean? Like it's just, I know it's simple, but it's
not because
there's some people you can't save, dude.
You even have, and again, I don't know if he's trolling us at this point or he really is just that into it.
Uncle Mike, I was talking about.
No, I know who you're talking about.
For those who don't know, Don and I we're pretty much relatives. We met on Ancestry. Maybe if you watched the podcast from a while back, you know. But yeah, just to throw it out there.
Yeah. But
so our Uncle Mike.
I'm talking about Peter Schiff. Like, even Peter Schiff, who is brilliant when it comes to understanding like the current monetary system, the corruptness of the system, and is a huge gold advocate. And I believe that gold is like 95% of the way there, and Bitcoin just took us over the finish line. So there's a lot of commingling attributes of gold and Bitcoin. So he understands things, but even Peter Schiff, if he's being completely genuine, doesn't understand the power of Bitcoin and what it does and how how it expands on what gold was for so long. If the viewers haven't had a chance yet to watch the debate that was moderated by David Lynn between Jack Mullers and Peter Schiff, it was really good. I think Jack did a really good job laying out the case for Bitcoin and handling Peter and Peter's like objectives and objections and his pushback. I think it was really good. It was really cordial as well. It was one of those really good debates where there wasn't a lot of talking over the other person and there was some common ground. It was really good. And Peter's debated a lot of people on the other side of the coin of being pro Bitcoin and him being pro gold guy. But here you got this smart ass dude, Peter Schiff. And before I knew of Peter Schiff and I was following him before I was into Bitcoin. So like I said, I was a gold and silver guy before this. So I looked up to Peter Schiff for a long time now. So the fact that even he doesn't get it is just like,
but I think
there's just a lot of people out there that are smart to
he does get it. I just think he's built such a brand on hating it, and he's already rich through the traditional.
There's an argument for that. There's an argument for that, but he's just gone so.
Yeah.
I mean, his arguments that he makes are. I mean, at this point, he's just holding on to it. Like I don't know. Like.
Yeah.
I believe that there's been a brand made for him, and he's definitely monetizing his X account with all the anti Peter Schiff people that follow him, and every time he hashtags Bitcoin, he gets a ton of engagement.
He's probably making more money is the way crypto's going right now. He's probably making more money monetizing anti-Bitcoin than he is holding Bitcoin.
Yeah.
What are his points against Bitcoin?
He just thinks it's tulips. Don will know more about her, but like,
I mean, his main thesis is just the
his
fact
son's
that
in it, right? Like his son likes it.
He thinks that, he believes that Satoshi is going to come back someday and rug pull us all. He believes that there's really more than 21 million because he counts the Satoshis like once. He's like there's 21 or 2.1 quadrillion Satoshis, so there's really not 21 million Bitcoin. It's like he just doesn't. He's a lot of word salad. I mean, the only thing he says that has any value is what I've already talked about 20 minutes ago, where I said if Satoshi actually really came back, that would be a threat. But I just believe wholeheartedly at this point in time. I mean, he would be one of the richest people on the planet if he came back and took those coins out of that wallet. And he's had so many opportunities in the last 15 years to do so, not to mention all the times it's been in the 60s and 70,000s where he could have just like at least taken 10% of it out and had multi-billions. So I think that ship is what's he going to wait for? 100 grand? Is he waiting for $1 million? Like, I just don't think that greed is too powerful of a experience for some human being not to be able to take some allocation and some fruits of their labor at this point in time, I believe. So I believe it was Hal Finney. I could be wrong, but whoever Satoshi is or was, I believe is no longer on this planet.
Yeah.
Which is great for all the rest of us that are in Bitcoin.
I do want to pivot to some breaking news. The Uber CEO wants to start accepting Bitcoin and crypto as a payment method soon. We have a comment right here that says people use stablecoins to pay, not Bitcoin. Such statements say that the CEO of Uber has bought some Bitcoin and wants to make money. If you really wanted crypto as payment, they would have started with an audience test. Personally, let's say if I was going to engage in commerce and do, and buy an Uber or something, I would never in my right mind want to use, my Bitcoin or my Ethereum or Solana. I would much rather prefer to use a stable coin. But when they say Bitcoin, and maybe there's an option, there's some optionality there. Maybe you can use USDC or Tether to buy an Uber, and if you want to use Bitcoin, you're free to do as well. This is an open marketplace where you have the freedom to transact. I wouldn't see why they wouldn't have that as an option, but that's kind of like not the smartest approach to go with that. What are your thoughts?
As somebody that's driven Uber in the past, I would absolutely love if they offered us the opportunity to accept Bitcoin.
Or
Oh my God, it would be amazing. Bitcoin. I'd be out there Ubering all the time if that was the case. But I just don't think I've heard this. I believe in the 2017 run, it was even mentioned. And definitely in the 2020, 2021 run, it was mentioned. Uber has tossed this around quite a bit, and it's just never picked up steam. I don't think that they're going to do it again, Bitcoin specifically, because I don't think there's a huge I think businesses have seen now that like accepting Bitcoin is not going to bring you a lot of business because people are holding it because it's the greatest asset ever created. Why am I going to go buy an Uber ride with Bitcoin? I'm going to spend $50 on an Uber ride and then watch it be 500 in a year. Why would I do
why
that?
can't you just use fiat? Why don't they have options where you can do fiat, stable coins, Bitcoin, Ethereum, all of it?
What I would like is if they offered on the other side, the riders, or I'm sorry, the drivers, the opportunity to cash out in crypto. That would be dope. I think that would be cool.
Yeah.
I think they're looking at it from the wrong end. I think if they offered a cash out option, because I think it would save them money, because you figure when they're making bank transactions back and forth, they have to pay to do those, to be depositing money into your account or in and out. With crypto, it could be super cheap. Even if they decided they were just going to use stable coins and they didn't use Bitcoin or whatever the case may be, or they decided to use Ethereum, whatever, pick a coin. But I think if they started blockchaining all their transactions for at least, because the most transactions that they have to, I think, concern themselves with would be the ones that they're making from them to the drivers, because they're getting paid from the users and then they're keeping a portion and giving the drivers the other portion, and saving money on one end of that and allowing the drivers to pick a blockchain option to receive their payout would probably save them money in the long run. In my opinion,
there's countries
I could
out
be wrong.
there
I don't know their
that
business model, but that's just my take. I'm sorry,
Right.
Matt. What you say?
There's some countries out there, like I don't know if it's some of those island countries in Bahamas or whatever, where like I've seen it online on Twitter where people are legitimately like paying for a smoothie with Bitcoin because their currency.
Yeah, El Salvador. They got Bitcoin Beach, where basically everything is transacted just about in Bitcoin. The community's living off Bitcoin. They're on a Bitcoin standard. So I know what happens in El Salvador, and there are some other spots. Troy could speak to this with what is it, Nigeria, that your buddy is at? Like, is it Nigeria, that one guy? So there's a lot of trading of Bitcoin back and forth.
Tether is like the main one down there, though.
Okay,
On
yeah. So I mean,
on the Tron network. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, there's just so much potential in this space for so many different things that I don't think it's been fully tapped yet. I've been vocal. I was talking about this in the 2020 election. Like, if we really wanted to secure elections, like, we could just blockchain elections. Like, the technology exists.
Yeah.
Like
you have to vote on the blockchain. You have to have your identity on the blockchain, which they kind of already do have that.
Yeah, you allow people to go in person. You allow people to absentee vote. You allow people to write in vote. You allow people to go in early. Why not make a fourth or fifth option where you allow people to just go on this blockchain option, verify themselves, and vote there? Why not? Why not present that? I mean, I don't think it would be logical yet to require everyone to do it, because I don't think everybody would be technologically advanced enough or have the technological capability. So I'm not saying that, but like, you give people 3 or 4 options already to vote. Why not create this brand new one that is incorruptible? I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why they're not going to do it, but I mean, that's just.
Because it's certified. I think that's a great use case, a huge use case for Bitcoin and blockchain technology. That just shows how early we kind of are. If like that makes so much sense, you know what I mean? But they don't have that option yet. So we're pretty damn early in the space. Like, people say we're not early because they're looking back to 2011. Oh, you didn't get in. Well, oh, you're still not in. Well, the best time to get in is today, not in 6 months, not a year from now, like today, right?
Yeah.
So we are early. I know it's relative to say that, but I mean, I'm well positioned. I'm sure you're well positioned. Matt's well positioned. So, I mean, all we can do really is just educate people on this matter and get the word out there. But I mean, I eat, sleep, breathe crypto, and it's my freedom technology that I want to harness that energy for as long as I possibly can. So,
I was thinking, because I was getting I've been a little frustrated lately on the lack of like our ability to grow on like our social medias and stuff like that. And then you just look around, it's like the average searching for crypto and Bitcoin it's down, it's not up. So like, to expect us to get all these new viewers or these new subscribers, it's just not realistic. So like, I had like to check myself on that a little bit. But what I did, like, have my little realization was that like our job as content creators here is to stay sharp, like, because there's going to come a time in the near future, we all believe, where this is going to explode again. People are going to come flooding back into the space, seeking knowledge, seeking information, looking for what to do, asking how to allocate certain ways. And there's going to be so many, because there already are, and they'll even come out of the woodwork then, bad actors in the space that are going to be out to hurt people instead of help people. So we have to, no matter how many people are watching us, whether it's 1, whether it's 400, we have to stay sharp. We have to do our best to be genuine, do our best to give good information and correct ourselves when we're wrong, and be humble enough to admit when we're wrong on something, so that when it does happen and the inevitability of the next bull run pops off and searches are exponentially higher and everybody's flooding into the space looking for people that they can trust, we continue to be one of those places that hopefully people can go to seek out that information, and we can be verifiably trusted actors to provide that type of information. That's my opinion.
And we have a library of content too. So on our YouTube channel, we're not the people that come and go when we please. We've been building in the bear market since FTX and Terra Luna, and it was right after Terra Luna. It was like FTX, like literally the Pico bottom. We did, I did a little DCA there, but I mean, as far as content creation, we've been through it all. We've been consistently making content. We just haven't been getting traction, which is fine.
I looked earlier. We actually have
learned a lot, doing this podcast.
Yeah,
too,
for sure.
well.
We passed our 300th video at some point this week. Where we do short. It's with shorts and videos. That's not just straight longer form videos, but we've posted 300 separate videos of content on our channel over 2 years. We've been doing this
almost every other day or every other.
It's a lot of content. And the other thing too is what I was talking to our producer Rich before we went live. What I want to do, I want to go back and count officially the number of actual podcasts we've done, and start attaching a number to our podcast to kind of see where we're at. Because I would be interested to see how far away we are from like our 100th actual podcast.
Yeah,
I don't. Maybe we've already passed it. I don't know. Like I would be interested to see like how many long form weekly podcasts we've filmed, and to start attaching that number to it, and like hold ourselves accountable to like commemorate whenever we hit some sort of milestone. And
maybe do like a giveaway, a Bitcoin giveaway or something for the viewers.
Yeah, it's probably time to do another one soon. I think maybe trying to get up to 500 subs on YouTube. Maybe we're getting close to 400.
I think
maybe
500 subs on YouTube would be a great milestone to give.
Yeah.
I think for people watching this, just staying tapped into a group or a network is highly important, just to keep you in the game as well. Especially for people who aren't 100% bought in yet. Just getting tapped into a network where you're surrounded by people that, even when Bitcoin's not trending or it's a bear market, are still talking about it, investing in it, trading in it. Is super important, because I even see the group chats that I'm in, and this is honestly, something that could, be built into my, medium term, TPI, where it's like how many chats are being sent, because, that indicates trending markets. So, I mean, I've seen the waves. I've kind of like stepped back and just watched it. And then, seeing how it was directly correlated to the price, how much people are talking about Bitcoin, just in the personal group chats about cryptocurrency that I'm in. When the price goes up, everyone wants to talk about it. Everyone starts getting invested, and then it cools off, and then no one's in it anymore. Or like in reality, you should be getting in it when no one's talking about it. And then, when the news comes, that those are some of your exit points, or, maybe when you want to start entering in the leverage, if you do that, right? So, I think, just for anyone who's watching, getting yourself into a network is, if you're not already bought in, you're not gung-ho, and you're not looking at this stuff every day, getting yourself into, a specific network is going to be key. And it's going to keep you dialed in.
For sure. Yeah. That was a really great point.
Yeah.
So we're wrapping up on this podcast here. We went live for 55 minutes. We started a little bit late because we had some technical difficulties out here in the jungle. I might give you guys a view. Like, we got a beautiful La Vista in the background. The views are absolutely beautiful out here. So yeah, to last minute thoughts is what you said. To add what you said is just, it doesn't have to be our group chat. Doesn't have it. Just find what works for you. Right. We're all unique in our own ways. We all have our own networks, friends. Just get involved. Start, like, if you don't want to trade or take leverage, efficient leverage, just invest. Like, just invest. Dollar cost average in, dollar cost average out. And that's pretty much the simplest strategy you can do or approach going into this marketplace, especially it being so volatile. Trading could be difficult. Your emotions will probably be a little bit, especially if you're a newbie, your emotions will be a little bit more out there as far as like a slower paced market, like the TradFi markets, because it fluctuates so significantly. Just invest, just dollar cost average, position yourself, and you'll be good.
Yeah, buy good assets and hold them. That's really the strategy. Like, whatever you deem to be a solid, good asset that you think is going to perform, outperform, etc., buy it, hold it. I mean, that's how wealth is created. Like, wealth is not, I mean, hot take, I don't think wealth is created trading. Like, you're not gonna create wealth trading every single day. You're gonna at some point make the wrong move, and you're gonna decimate a big portion of your working capital, which is not going to be good. I think if you look at good assets, the best way to make money in those assets is to dollar cost average. And another hot take, diversification is a myth that poor people use to tell themselves that they're going to create wealth. The wealthiest people, their diversification has been into one or two really, really good things that they had a lot of conviction on, and they went all in on it. And that's how they became extremely wealthy. So yeah, you can sprinkle your shit around in your 401ks and all those other things that you do. And I mean, that's a strategy, and get your 7 or 8%. But if you want to change the course of your family lineage, you got to find something that's you're ahead of the curve on. And sometimes it takes being one of the few to own a lot of the many. And that's kind of what Bitcoin has presented for people, the opportunity to be in on something even at 58,000 early. Because if this asset does what a lot of the people that are much smarter than me, much smarter than Troy and Matt think it's going to do, like, we're talking stratosphere type numbers that could really change the trajectory of people's families and generational wealth. And, you know, taking the time to learn about it and then allocating some assets and dollar cost averaging in, what's the worst that happens? I mean, maybe you stumble into some wealth.
Yeah, I mean, like, personally, like, I would consider myself a decent trader, but I've personally made most of my wealth through buying in the bear markets and waiting for the trending markets, not trying to time trade, because you need compounding interest to work in your favor. And if you're not continuing to buy in the bear market, we're in the bull market, but we're still we're 1/3 of the ways to go. And you don't want to be that guy that's buying the top again or coming in when it's too late. Like, just be smart. Like, that's all we can say. Don't trust verify.
Don't trust verify. See you guys next week. Stay safe out there in the jungle, boys.
Thank you.